Today we're going to talk about the endocrine system. It will be divided in two parts. The first part we will deal with the pituitary, the different components of the pituitary. We will also talk about the thyroid, the different cells of the thyroid, then the parathyroid. All that will be part one. Part two, we will continue with adrenal, the blood flow in the adrenal, the cortex and medulla, a little bit about the pineal, and then we'll end with the islets of Langerhans that produce insulin. Thank you. The endocrine system, part two. Part two, we want to identify the various components and the cells therein of the adrenal gland. We want to identify the pineal sites in the pineal gland, and we want to identify the islets of Langerhans cell in the pancreas for the insulin production. So here we see the adrenal. Ad, it means near the renal, near the kidney. And here we see the cortex of the adrenal. And here we can see it over here. This is the capsule, this is the cortex, and then this is the medulla. And these have different layers. Of course, you got arteries in the capsule. So here's the capsule, dense, irregular connective tissue like all capsules. And then you have zona glomerulosa. It looks a little bit like a glomerulus, and that's his name. Zona fasciculata. You have these different areas. Sometimes it's lighter staining. It's not there, not so much there. And then the zona reticularis, which is right next to the medulla. We can see here this is the chromaffin cells of the medulla, and ultimately they're going to drain in the central vein. So you have different types of neurons that release, some directly and some indirectly. For the adrenal medulla, you have a direct connection. So epinephrine being released. When you see a bear, you need to get that epinephrine released to increase your heart rate so you can run, and that the endocrine system is too slow for that. But to be more general effect and a longer term effect, indirect way would be by using the endocrine system. So this is direct neurological system, and the adrenocortical hormone, we say the cortical because it's only the cortex that the hormones influence. The nervous system is direct connection with the medulla. So it's the cortex, adrenocortical trophic hormone that causes the adrenal cortex to secrete its components. So the nerve, again, you have the nerve up there. This is in the hypothalamus. It releases in the portal system, goes to the pars distalis. ACTH is produced, and it stimulates the adrenal. And here we see the different blood supply of the adrenal. You got a capsule, you got the cortex, and then the medulla. In the medulla, you have the draining vein. This is the big vein. So you have blood flow going in from the capsule, and then it percolates down through here. So we have sinuses. These are the sinuses that the blood is percolating through these cells, picking up their hormones for the different layers. Remember, glomerulosa, fasciculata, and reticularis is where it's going through. Also, there's some arteries that go directly into here to provide oxygenated blood. This would be kind of deoxygenated by the time it got through cortex. But regardless of how the blood comes in, where it comes in through arterial or where it comes in actually through these sinuses, it ultimately ends up in the central vein. And here we can see it. This is the capsule, glomerulosa, fasciculata, reticularis, and then in the medulla. Glomerulosa, fasciculata, reticularis, fasciculata. And so in the capsule, you're going to have arteries and veins, as I mentioned to you. They come in from the peripheral arteries to the cortical arteries in through there, and from there it goes to the capillaries and sinuses, and then it joins the medullary capillaries and arteries, which are they're fenestrated sinusoids. Fenestrated, in other words, there's kind of little holes along the way that facilitates hormones to get in and out in the blood serum to interact with the cells that are there. Ultimately, it goes through the medullary veins and down through the suprarenal vein. Eventually, is how it is discharged back into the bloodstream. Here we see the human fetal adrenal cortical cell has lots of smooth endoplasmic reticulum. The mitochondria, these are mitochondria here. And the steroid secreting cells, you have tubular type cristae. It's still a lamellar, they're little tubes. In fact, it looks a lot like the smooth ER, but these are mitochondria, 1, 2, 3 mitochondria that we see there. Here we can see the nucleus, but a lot of smooth endoplasmic reticulum in these cells. So we've got the capsule, cortex, medulla, and there's the vein. So here we can see these cells here. These are the chromaffin cells on the medulla, and then these are the cells of the zona reticularis, as we see. And then we've got the large vein. Large vein, remember, large veins has smooth muscle bundles, longitudinally disposed in the adventitious. And here's another little vein coming in through there, and this is a lymphatic right here. So here we see the different layers. You got the capsule, and then you got the medullary vein of the lumen that we see right there. Adrenal gland that we can see here is a whole gland. There's the cortex, and this is the medulla. And you say you got the capsule, zona glomerulosa, zona fasciculata, zona reticularis, and these are the sinuses in between. So you got blood coming in through there, percolates down through there, gets ultimately into the central vein. And we can see these are the sinuses, and these are fenestrated sinuses. That is, endothelial cells lining these. The endothelial cells themselves have fenestra, and you may have connective tissue that runs through there. So that would be the trabeculae. Chromaffin cells, they produce epinephrine upon nervous stimulation. Lipid droplets are abundant in steroid-secreting cells. Characteristic: cholesterol precursors for the cholesterol hormones, for the steroid hormones, are stored in the lipids. So you got cholesterol, which gives rise to steroid hormones, and that cholesterol is found in the lipid. Also, there's abundance of smooth endoplasmic reticulum in these cells, enzymes for steroid production. So the zona reticularis has a rich vascular supply, wide capillaries, wider than we see. We might have seen those in the past when we're passing the slides. The adrenal function, you got aldosterone produced from the adrenal that stimulates sodium reabsorption in different places. That is opportunity. One, in distal tubule of the kidney, also in the gastric mucosa in the gut, in the salivary glands, and in the sweat glands. So where these interact with salt, aldosterone can stimulate sodium reabsorption to occur. Now, cortisol is anti-inflammatory effect. So we're talking about adrenal function again. Is anti-inflammatory. It stabilizes the lysosomal membranes, causes atrophy of the lymphoid tissue throughout the body. So it reduces the effect of the lymphoid tissue, decrease circulating lymphocytes. So it has a dampen effect on the immune system. So here we can see the effect of aldosterone on blood pressure. From the kidney, you're going to have renin produced. Renin causes angiotensin 1 to go to angiotensin 2, the cortex of the adrenal, and that causes the glomerulosa, causes aldosterone to be produced. Aldosterone causes distal tubules. So you have a slow but sustained effect on blood pressure because aldosterone causes a reabsorption of salt that increases extracellular volume, increases blood volume, ultimately increases blood pressure. So renin goes through the effect of the adrenal, through aldosterone production and reabsorption, and then increased blood volume and increased blood pressure. Also, renin causes angiotensin 2 to be produced, and that's a quick effect on blood pressure because of vasoconstriction of angiotensin 2. So angiotensin 2, so along the pathway, you have angiotensin 2, which stimulates aldosterone produced, but it also causes a constriction of the blood vessels, and that will elevate the blood pressure as well. Now, in addition to the pituitary, we also have a pineal sitting right at the base of the brain, as we see there too. And here we see the brain sand stuff and the pineal sites located in through there. If we look at the pineal, we can see the capsule, tubercle going through there, kind of a lobule, and the pineal gland produces melatonin. Melatonin is released at highest during the dark cycle. And there's the brain sand. It's kind of like sand. Neuroglial and the pituitary are located in through there. Now, melatonin has an effect on the hamster testis. You can see it active, and this is reproductive activity. Reproductive activity is highest during the light cycle. During the dark cycle, if they stay in the dark for a very long time, the testes will regress in size, and then they will sometimes make a spontaneous regress, or if you put them back in the light, it will cause them to, for the melatonin effect, which regulates the size of the gonads and also the reproductive activity. So the pineal, you can see it interacts with light, of course, so it involves your eye, and then these pituitary sites dump its melatonin on the capillaries, and you have a light and dark cycle. You have more light cycle, you'll have more melatonin, which evidently inhibits reproductive cycles in hamsters. Also, we have the pancreas, and throughout the pancreas you have these islets of Langerhans, and in the islets of Langerhans we have alpha cells and we have beta cells. Beta cells is what it produces. So in the pancreas you have both exocrine and endocrine production, and throughout the pancreas you will have these islets. They're located throughout, and the reason they're located there because there's a portal system between the capillaries and the islets, and the capillaries around the pancreatic astral cells, which is what we see here and here. So here we see the islets of Langerhans with capillaries in through there, and we also see capillaries here. There's a little venule there through there, a little capillary here, another capillary there, and these are pancreatic astral cells. You can see the zymogen secretions. Now, the beta cells are more in the middle, but the alpha cells are more in the periphery, and we can see that here. This is immunocytochemistry standing with antibodies against hormones of the alpha and beta cells. So here you can see the alphas on the outside, the darker cells, and then the lighter cells here are the beta cells, are more on the inside. We can't tell that from routine toluidine blue staining, as you can see, but you certainly can see a nice endothelial cells of the capillaries. So this is the first capillary network of a portal system, and this is the second capillary network of a portal system. So you see I have the islets here, pancreatic astral cells with an acinus in through there, another acinus in through there, and there's a duct. So this is exocrine versus endocrine function of the pancreas. And in terms of our clinical correlation, here we can have thyroiditis, autoimmune disease caused hypothyroidism, while Graves' disease is the most common form of hyperthyroidism. So you can have too little or you can have too much. Remember young Frankenstein? This guy suffered from Graves' disease, hypothyroidism, with the eyes all popped out. Cushing's disease results from excess amount of glucocorticoids. However, the most common cause of Cushing's disease is medication itself. So there's a worksheet, and here we can see the different things. We're supposed to list the hormones of source, the target, and actions, and we've kind of done that for the various hormones that are in the endocrine system. And remember, one of the things we wanted to remember was the diversity of hormones and their actions and their target cells of the endocrine system, insulin from the beta cells, and it causes sugar uptake. And we thank many sources for the slides. These are the primary sources of these slides, which are modified for this presentation, and from them we certainly want to give credit for their original contribution to things that were modified in this preparation. Thank you.